Hello, welcome back to Next Slide Please, and we are once again joined by the lovely Alice Quinn Rose, storyteller and filmmaker. Alice Quinn Rose.
You're right.
Hello. And today's presentation, you may notice that my opening slide is a little bit barren of any information. That's because I want to ask you all a question. Basically, what I want you to do is tell me what all of these things have in common. Okay, so Death of a Gunfighter from 1969, The Barking Dog from 1978, The Twilight Zone movie from 1983, Let's Get Harry, The Shrimp on the Barbie, Birds 2 at Land's End, Hellraiser Bloodline, The Mighty Ducks movie, The First Face Off, The MacGyver pilot, as well as the music videos to I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston, So Help Me Girl by Gary Barlow, Reunited by the Wu-Tang Clan, and Some Kind of Monster by Metallica, and the voice actor of Rolento in the video game Street Fighter X, Tekken, and Ultra Street Fighter 4. What do these things all have in common?
The voice actor is the thing that threw me off.
I was going to say they're all movies, but then there was loads of music videos.
I was going to say they were anthologies, but then
Yeah.
Mighty Ducks appeared. Are they all prequels? Are they all prequels to something else?
Well, apart from the voice of Rolento, they were all directed by one person, and the voice of Rolento is that same person. But it's a little bit more complicated than that, because this person was Alan Smithee. And Alan Smithee is, according to Wikipedia at least, the official pseudonym used by film directors who wish to disown a project.
I know about this.
So this is the Directors Guild of America thing, and it's blurred into some other like professions as well. But basically, they needed a name for people to use when they didn't want to be attached to the project anymore. Because a film could not just go out without a director. They needed to have something on it, and so they coined this name, Alan Smithee, specifically to enable people to not have their name attached to their project. Why would you go by Alan Smithee? I ask. You ask. We all ask. There's a number of reasons why you might want to go by Alan Smithee. The most common one, of course, being studio meddling. We all have heard the stories of people being asked to direct a film and then not having any control over their film because the studio is a multi-billion-pound company that wants complete creative control, and the director is just sort of there to put his name on it, right? This happens all the time, and has happened for a long time. Another reason why you might want to go by Alan Smithee or take your name off a project would be for various different cuts. So maybe an airline cut or a TV cut. When you have a film on those mediums, they might make adjustments. So it might be for censoring reasons. They might change swear words or things like that. Or it might be to change runtime.
I didn't understand when I saw airline cuts. I had no idea what that could mean. Now I thought maybe they're not getting the flights that they used to, but no.
Yeah.
No, so airlines are quite big on editing movies so that they're family friendly.
Wow, that's so weird. I didn't know that.
I thought it would be something that fits into the time that you're on a plane for, but that's okay.
Yeah. TV cuts, sometimes people even go change the director name on their film when the TV cuts is just putting adverts in between, every 20 minutes. Because it cuts up the pace, and some directors are a bit like that, you know what they're like.
That's so weird that airlines would recut movies rather than just play movies.
Oh,
that,
family friendly.
Don't need censorship. Yeah.
If they cut out, but they might just be cutting out swear words from Anne Hathaway's The Intern or something.
Yeah.
And then it's taking it from a 12 to a PG.
Can you think of any other reason why you might want to go uncredited?
Arguments with producers and stuff, which I guess you kind of covered in studio meddling and being ashamed of the project.
Witness protection.
Witness protection. Okay.
you don't want to get sued because you've stolen loads of other people's work, as in the infamous example of Godfrey Hall, which I remember heard Soph talking to you about the other day.
Is there like tax reasons for like if your name isn't on it, then like I don't know, you're not liable for paying some sort of tax?
Well, it's interesting because like this is a forced thing from the Directors Guild of America, right? So one would presume that there would be some level of like they would know who that person is. You're trying to get permission from the Directors Guild of America to change your name on this. You can't just change your name on a film, basically, because I imagine as part of the Directors Guild of America process, you have to register that you're directing a film.
I think it's similar to equity in that like there can't be two actors with the same name. So like there's a lot of actors who like John Smith who have to get their name changed to something else.
Yeah. Well, along came a film in 1997 called An Alan Smithee Film, Burn, Hollywood, Burn.
Ooh, meta.
Yeah.
It is a meta
Alan
film.
Smithee
It
gets
stars...
his revenge.
That's like a pretty decent cast as well.
Yeah, it is a pretty decent cast. Eric Idle stars Alan Smithee, a director who is attached to a project, has a lot of studio interference and decides he doesn't want to be attached to that project anymore. But because his name is Alan Smithee, and a Directors Guild of America refuses to do any other name or refused at the time to do any other name when someone wanted to drop their project, he was unable to remove his name from the project.
That's so funny. That's such a like farcical concept for a film. That's so funny.
Well, it's not that funny a film. I did watch this film. It's the first time I've watched a film for one of these episodes. And it was a mistake.
Oh my God. Funny concept, not funny movie.
Are the special appearances of Sylvester Stallone, Whoopi Goldberg and Jackie Chan just cameos? Because I've never seen special appearance on a poster before.
Well, it's weird. So those three, they have quite large roles in the film because the film that Alan Smithee directs and wants to disown stars those three people in like a buddy cop drama thing, basically. And they have like quite major roles. Like the first person you see on the screen is Sylvester Stallone. It's not like a mild cameo, but it does feel a little bit like a little bit self-absorbed. It feels like the only person who is finding this film funny is a movie exec from 1997. It also stars a rather large starring part by the most horrible man in Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, Jesus.
He has a major part in this film as a cop.
Oh, well, that's bitter, isn't it?
It's horrific. It's horrific, and it properly blindsided me when I saw it. So if you are going to watch it, be prepared for that, because it did completely come out of left field. So obviously this film, it didn't do well because you've never heard of it before, but it did shine a light on the concept of Alan Smithee. And shortly after it was released, 4 or 5 years later after it was released, the Directors Guild of America decided that they were no longer going to use the name Alan Smithee for directors who wanted to disown their project.
They've got caught out by the movie.
Okay, I now need to change my name to Alan Smithee when I go and direct movies in America.
So this is a quote from John Rich, who's the Directors Guild of America Board of Directors, which I think is a bit of a weird thing. You're a board of directors of the Directors Guild of America. But it's two different types of directors there.
Say it 5 times fast.
He says, "I have a fondness for the fellow. I gave birth to him. But Esther House ruined it. Several on the board feel we should maintain Smithee, but I understand the viewpoint from the majority that he's been damaged to the point of it's unworkable. This is an ideal time for his obituary."
That's so funny.
That's such a
Talking
vicious
about
thing
him
to
like
say.
a real man.
It's fine if people know that it's a false name because someone doesn't want their name on it. That doesn't matter. Like,
I gave birth to him. We can't just kill him
if
off.
you're using Alan Smithee as the title, then you're not doing it for brand recognition.
Well, somewhat ironically, the Alan Smithee film, Burn, Hollywood, Burn, ended up being directed by a guy by Alan Smithee, because the guy who directed it wanted his name off the project. There are arguments that it potentially could have been a
I was
publicity
going to
stunt.
say that has
though.
to be right. That has to be them taking the piss.
But like, it's not a good film, so it could actually legitimately be.
I mean, you can't, but you have to make it a bad movie to make for joke work. If it's a good movie, you can't say it's by Alan Smithee.
It's not bad as in a you want to watch it kind of bad. It's bad as in a this is just a bit of a boring and a little bit unpleasant film, because there's lots of misogynistic jokes. Not that I don't know what you'd expect from a comedy from 1997 set in Hollywood. It's gonna be there's gonna be stuff in there which is
with Harvey Weinstein in it.
With Harvey Weinstein in it. Basically, every single female character is either exists only to provide sex to the male characters, or is seen as like a gold digger.
No,
good job.
It's all a bit weird, yeah. It did make me feel a bit uncomfortable, and I don't know whether I could realistically recommend this film as a film that you should watch on a bad movie night.
You could just do an Alan Smithee movie night. I'm sure there's enough bad movies in his catalogue.
Oh yeah, that would actually be a good idea. I think that would be a really clever idea.
Also, the Twilight Zone movie isn't bad. It's a decent enough B movie.
So this is what Godfrey Hall does. This is part of Godfrey Hall, as Soph was saying to Jen on stream the other night. Godfrey Hall has over 80 pseudonyms that he's made movies under, and one of the reasons he uses pseudonyms is because he had like an exclusivity contract with this one studio, and he was making movies on the side under a different name, like with different people. But that still doesn't explain 80. Mostly it's because it's all like incredibly shady and just recutting other people's movies and adding in his own weird stuff.
Well, what do you do now that Alan Smithee, the name of Alan Smithee, has been besmirched, and you are not able
make
to
up another name that will eventually get besmirched, and then you have to make up another name, and eventually.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, now they choose the name not at random, but they choose a different name each time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you know someone who's trying to break into the industry and you want to lock them out of the industry, you choose their name, and then they can't.
Yeah.
There is that risk.
Yeah, and it's very hard to tell when someone's Alan Smithied it now that there isn't an Alan Smithee, because per Directors Guild of America rules, you're not allowed to mention if you've Alan Smithied it, basically.
Oh, why? I wonder what they get from that. That you're not allowed to say if the director's disowned the movie.
Because it would sell badly. Basically.
I mean, that makes sense. Like that they wouldn't want.
So that was one of the main concerns of studios, was that by having this name that everybody knew, if you had a film that was directed by this person, something's not right there. You know that they've not. The director doesn't have faith in that project, and so it's probably going to be a bit.
That
rubbish.
makes sense. Alan Smithee was too prolific, got too much attention, and they couldn't continue.
Yeah.
It's time for his obituary. As I say, of all of the people I've given birth to. Well, that's what he said. I gave birth to him, and now it's time for his obituary. This is very rude.
He's basically an immortal.
Yeah.
Oh, famously, David Tennant is not. His real name isn't David Tennant. It's David MacDonald. And apparently, this is what I've heard. He chose his name from a copy of the magazine Smash Hits. It's literally from Neil Tennant.
Oh, that's great.
It's wild, isn't it? It's wild.